So thank you so much, and welcome to the Marketing Africa corporate scene.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's just go straight. And the way we're going to divide our discussion is first just to understand, by looking at your bio, we've realized that you're an expert in the hospitality industry. So
I wouldn't call myself an expert, but thank you for that.
Okay, so we want to divide the discussion into two. One, we want to borrow your ideas in the hospitality industry in Kenya, very important for us. And secondly, we want to borrow some ideas from your professional experience. So I'm going just to start directly and just indulge you in some critical topic, and that is the hospitality industry in Kenya. You've been around slightly over a year right now. How do you find the Kenyan hospitality industry?
In all fairness, I think it's wonderful. The coast is very, very friendly. The warmth you get over here, reminds you of how India was before we became very, very, how do I put it, professional. All right. But whatever Kenya is catching up to, they make up with that beautiful warmth that every individual over here has to display.
Okay.
Everyone is very confident, as opposed to in a few of the places where I've worked at. Everyone is very, very confident in terms of being approachable, in terms of being put into any situation, and then they'd actually come out of it all shining. But that's, I guess, every place has its pros and cons, and
Yes.
I think these are great pluses of the region.
Okay. Just looking at the Kenyan hospitality industry currently, how do you compare it with some of the markets that you've worked in?
It's very different. I think the culture of going to hotels is just beginning here. And this is, of course, based on whatever I have learned from my interactions with various guests of ours who would tell us that perhaps 15 years back, 10 years back, going to hotels would not even cross their mind. I think the economy is becoming stronger and stronger,
Yes.
and then that is allowing this new group of society that's called the middle class to really come up, venture out. It was unheard of, going for international holidays, and now you see young executives planning 3-4 holidays a year, who are looking at 2 international holidays, 1 domestic holiday, 1 adventure holiday in a year. So when you look at that happening, it is a good thing to see that the whole vibe is there to go and explore new experiences, which is refreshing.
Okay. Wow. And just the comparison you've just given me right now, that the economy is really growing and you're having young executive, just booking domestic tourism destinations here in Kenya. How would you compare it to India?
I think India has evolved in a lot of ways in terms of how people travel. So now, if I was an executive back home,
Yes.
I would be traveling at least 4 times a year at least. And these are 2 long holidays, 2 short holidays, and this is not counting the weekend breaks that you would traditionally take.
Yes.
And that also has to do with people having a greater amount of disposable income.
Okay.
So it's all being planned. India has gone to great lengths where you can now even take a holiday on EMI. So you don't have to necessarily pay up,
Yes.
upfront for the entire holiday.
Okay.
You can pay. You can plan your entire, spending accordingly.
Okay.
Which is fantastic.
Oh, wow, wonderful. And how do you compare this with the other developed countries?
I think we've actually got this on from the rest of the world.
Okay.
Just like Kenya, India is developing as well.
Okay.
India isn't a developed market. We're the second largest population in the world,
Yes.
but it is not a developed market. There is still so much potential. The growth that you see, especially in the hospitality sector,
Yes.
you have a hotel being opened at least 1 every 2 days, right? So, and you're talking of branded hotels. You're not talking of individual units that will come up. Brands are opening up a hotel literally every 2 days in India. So. The sector is still far from being saturated, and it's just like how you probably see it in the United States or in Europe, where you see a hotel at every corner,
Yes.
which is affordable, which is not restricted, which is offering great deals and great value for money. And I guess every economy is going to go through the similar cycle.
Okay. You mentioned something very critical to the industry. You mentioned about disposable income. And you mentioned about Kenyans are learning so much from developed countries, and that in terms of just booking holidays. Is there any challenge, any critical challenge you're foreseeing in the industry? And by mentioning the industry, I'm just focusing on Kenya.
I think the biggest challenge with Kenya right now is, and when I say Kenya, I mean I'm going to restrict it to the coast, because the understanding is mainly on the coast.
Yes.
And on the coast, our biggest challenge is, the erratic nature of business, right? You have on the coast different segments that are operating. You've got, the Malindi, Watamu area. You have the north coast, and then you've got the south coast. These are literally in a span of 3.5-4 hours drive, but very, very different in terms of the markets they attract, very different in terms of the kind of clientele you get, and very different in terms of the rates that get offered.
Yes.
So when you're looking at the north coast, for example, the north coast has a very, very varied mix, which attracts a lot of domestic clientele.
Yes.
Watamu attracts a lot of charter clientele that comes in predominantly from one country, which is Italy.
Italy.
Right? So a huge chunk of their market share is Italian. And then if you go down to the south coast, you see a mix of the Polish, the Germans, the English, and even a few domestic travelers. So this has got to probably diversify. That you don't want to be known as a region only for a particular market segment. We tend to get compared that, the North Coast does only a lot of conferencing, right?
Yes.
And that probably isn't what the North Coast is all about. We have equally great beaches, we have equally great offerings, and that isn't necessarily the conference segment. I mean, if you look around in the resort today, here we have a great mix of holiday makers, a great mix. In fact, we've had a record number of holiday makers this August. And but the perception out in the market is no. If you have to go to Sarova Whitesands, you're going to find a lot of business travelers as opposed to people just on holidays.
Okay, wow, that's very insightful. You brought out a very critical point here about segmenting. North Coast being known for conferencing, Italians being focusing in this area. I just want to just divert a little bit and just look at Sarova Group of Hotels. What role are you playing to market Kenya internationally as a tourist destination?
I think as Sarova, we've got a great hold in certain segments and certain markets that we have internationally.
Yes.
Our focus, if you have to really ask us, our focus is in the traditional European market. We have a GSA appointed that works for Sarova Hotels in Paris.
Okay.
We have a GSA appointed that works for us in London. So we have two GSAs predominantly in the European market that's feeding into our company, and for that matter also creates awareness about the Kenyan market that's available in the region. With that being said, we also we understand that India is now the new travel base where outbound travel is becoming very, very high, and that's why now we've very recently appointed our GSA for India, that's based in Mumbai, and we already got queries coming in. We already did a first set of FAM tour in conjunction with certain airlines as well. So you are looking at diversifying and opening up your brand in markets that were traditionally not seen as a Kenyan going market.
Yes.
You also look at the fact that Kenya is predominantly known as a safari country as opposed to a beach destination. You have the most wonderful beaches that you can come across, all right? Probably a few of the best in the world. And when you say that, it's synonymous to Kenya. How safari is seen. All right, so Kenya is equal to safari and wildlife, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's where a place like the coast tends to get left out, because if if safari is in the forefront of everything, you've got this amazing leisure destination that can fall into a back seat and tend to get I wouldn't say neglected, but overlooked. And that's not really fair to the destination, because it's fantastic, it's beautiful.
Wow. Okay. Well, great work you're doing there to market the country. But just as a group, Sarova Group of hotels, are there any innovative products probably on the pipeline to come that you're considering for this market?
I think if you look at all our rooms, we have just finished our renovation in Whitesands. So Whitesands is a completely renovated room product. All our pools are renovated. All right, so all our pools are state of the art, in compliance with international guidelines of being, of a certain depth. We're at the moment, as we speak, doing our state of the art, conference room. So that's being done up right now.
Yes.
So when you look at where Sarova is wanting to be pegged now, I think for the coast, Whitesands wants to be pegged with any international brand. And because we are offering international amenities to all our guests, we're offering them exactly what they would get when they would go to an international brand. And the expectation, because the traveler now is well traveled, well informed, exposed, the internet really helps you understand what offerings hotels have. And hotels do a lot in terms of even marketing themselves on every platform as much as they can. It creates a lot of awareness for everybody. So even we're very proud about the fact that we've finished our renovation, and we're also looking at developing new F&B concepts. So Nairobi, for instance, is really ahead now with its F&B concepts. I mean, you have seen Nairobi diversify as having so many new restaurants, so many new concepts. Cuisines are now coming in.
Yes.
And it's no longer about the Kenyan being shy about not wanting to try something that they're not familiar with.
Yes.
The gastronomical experience that one wants to go through is also on the rise.
Yes.
And that comes from exposure, that comes from awareness. And as a brand, we are in every step of the same direction.
Wow. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, yesterday we witnessed a launch of a route by Silverstone, and that's not the only one. We are seeing a lot of low-cost airlines coming up. Has that impacted your business, or just to speak the industry as a whole?
I think the best part for any destination is bringing in footfall. And it's not about Whitesands to say, okay, this is a particular segment where only someone who can afford to fly a certain airline, who can afford to pay this kind of amount is going to... I think it's about the destination. It impacts the destination, which impacts everything. It doesn't matter whether you stay with us, or whether you stay with our neighboring hotel, or whether you pick up an Airbnb for that matter. You're going to go and want to have experiences. And those experiences are not limited to only where you stay. Those experiences are vast. People can come to, Whitesands to experience water sports. People can come to Whitesands to experience the restaurants. Right? And if you just want to spend the day by the pool, you can even come over here. That's not a... So there are so many experiences. So any airline for us is a great thing, because it's going to bring in, tourists into the region. The footfall is going to increase, and it's a win-win for everybody. Not just for me as a hotel operator. The taxi operator benefits. The guys in the every souvenir shop, every tourist-related function, which is there to give certain amount of experience or business support, will only benefit.
Okay. Besides the airlines, let's look at SGR.
Oh yeah.
The new kid on the block.
No, it's not a new kid on the block. It's the big boy on the block, if you ask me. When you're bringing in 3,000 people every day, not every airline is doing that. I think even collectively, all the airlines put together don't bring in that kind of numbers. I mean, if you're trying to block SGR today, you're not going to get a ticket just like that. These are booked out weeks in advance now. Right? And the best part of all, it is affordable, and it's a beautiful experience. For us as Sarova, if you have to think about it, we've benefited so much just from that one SGR, where now guests who traditionally would want to come to us, or if they had to go to our sister properties in Voi, right, which is in Savo. People would have had to come to Mombasa, drive from Nairobi. Now they can just get off at Voi, and it's a 30-minute drive from there.
Wow, wonderful.
Right, so you've literally cut down that whole extra road trip that you've had to make,
Yes.
right? And if you're just doing from Voi to Mombasa, the scenery is just fantastic. You get to see wildlife. So someone
Yes.
who's, that's a teaser. That's a teaser to say, listen, if you're going to take this train and go to Mombasa,
Yes.
this is what you're missing. Stop on the way through,
Yes.
get off,
Yeah.
get to Savo, go and experience that,
Wow.
and come back here. All right, come back
Wow.
to Mombasa to finish your trip, and then you can take the train back.
Okay.
And that's just from a Sarova perspective. But just from the coast perspective,
Yes.
it is just enhanced the entire business for the coast. All of a sudden, you have 3,000 people coming in, day out. I mean, 1,500 in the morning, 1,500 in the evening. So it's just changed the entire ball game for us.
Yes.
Numbers of have increased. Airlines, like you just mentioned, are increasing.
Yes.
Right. It's no longer just coming to Moi. People are now flying to Vipingo. People are flying to Diani straight away. So there are so many options for anybody wanting to come to the coast,
Oh.
and it's only going to get better in my opinion in the future.
Okay, wonderful. Now, to my last question in this particular segment is that we read a lot that literally when the tourism season is down, a lot of hotels suffer. But for Whitesands, I don't know what magic you're doing. Could you just explain to me what magic do you do here?
We don't do magic. I mean,
Yes.
I think there's an old saying: you've got to have different strokes for different folks.
You're right.
And you've got to be flexible as a business. If I'm not going to be flexible towards what your needs are,
Yes.
then you are not going to come to me. I mean, the consumer is spoiled for choice these days. You're not going to come to me if you're not there. But what we also have to, as much as you'd like to say that we spin magic, you can't take away from a few things that Sarova stands for and the values that we have, ensured that we without ever, compromising on them, stand by them regardless of what time of the year it is or how difficult the situation financially, economically is in the country. You should know that, for the last, as long as Sarova has been in existence, we've never laid off anyone based on the economy being down. No one's ever had to, go through unnecessary wage cuts. It's not happened. Wages are still paid on time to all employees. Employees are really, really looked after. That has now translated into the guest being looked after.
Wow.
Right, and when you have a motivated and a very, very secure base of employees who feel very, very happy about being, really associated to a company that takes care of them, that gives the due that they deserve, then that reflects in the business increasing, that reflects in personal relationships being garnered with guests,
Yes.
bonds being created. That bond enhances into 4 visits, 5 visits, to a point where I have guests who come here telling us, we came here as kids, we brought our kids here, and now my kids are bringing their kids here. They relate to Whitesands as their second home.
Wow.
And that can only happen when you have a very, very happy bunch of people. So I guess it's not the magic that we're doing, it's the values we stand for. It's the commitment that we offer our guests, and we will always continue to do that. And that's, I think, this refreshing African hospitality, that promise that we make. We take that very, very seriously. I mean, that is our guiding principle.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Such an insightful discussion we've had.
It was a pleasure.
Now, just lastly, to my last section of the discussion, just to understand you as a person, could you please just tell me a little bit about your professional background? Why this particular industry?
It's the only thing I know. In all fairness, that's the only thing I know. When everybody says, Siddharth, how many years of experience you have? I always tell them I have 33 years of experience. And then, obviously the next question is how come? And I say, listen, I was literally raised in a hotel lobby. My father's a hotelier. My mother's in the trade. My younger brother's in the trade. So this is literally all I know. if you would have asked me run even the most simplest of businesses outside of this, and I probably would tell you I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. You brought in something very interesting that allow me to ask this question. Would you attribute your success right now? Because looking at you right now, you're very young to be a general manager actually of one of the leading brands of hotels in Kenya. Would you attribute your success to the way you're telling me you were raised up in a hotel lobby?
Lots of things, I think. I think, I have also moved around a lot.
Okay.
Yes, my success is, I wouldn't call myself successful, be all very honest. I mean, I think there's a long way ahead. I have about 20 years of work left in me, to say the least. I mean, legal retirement age is 27 years more.
Yes.
But I still have 20 years of work ahead of me. So I don't think I'm successful, in all fairness. And I'm not trying to be, overly modest for someone to come and say, oh, no, but you are. The fact of the matter is, there are a lot of young GMs today in the market. There are a lot of young entrepreneurs in the market. I think my learning so far has come from various backgrounds. It comes from my family. It comes from my upbringing.
Yes.
It comes from my experiences in terms of the different countries I have worked in, the different sort of people. When you're working in places like the Maldives, for that matter, you're interacting with, on one island, you're interacting with people from 32 different nationalities who are just working there. I'm not talking about the guests who are there. So when you're interacting with 32 different nationalities, you're learning from 32 different cultures.
Yes.
And that just enriches you in terms of being aware of what is good, what's not good, what's accepted, what's not, how to be, how to have different point of view about a lot of things. So, and I'm doing the same thing over here. You learn from everything over here. For me, when people ask me, how are people in Kenya, and I say, what, they take hospitality to a whole different level. The preemptive service that one can offer here may not be offered in some of the best places in the world. The warmth that you get here, you would not get that in a lot of places in the world, and a lot of developed, so-called, developed countries. So, my learning and my success so far, or should I say, my journey so far, and that's the right way to put it. My journey so far is on its way, and I'm learning from everybody. So, even my interaction with you today is going to teach me something for tomorrow. So, my success or my journey is attributed to everybody around me.
You're interacting with. Okay. And what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, let's put it this way, is not being able to achieve what I want to. My biggest fear is getting up one day morning and not challenged. And when you don't feel challenged, that's when you know that you have not done enough.
Okay. Which is that moment that you like talking about in your professional life that has been your proudest moment?
When I got into a management training program in India, I went to the Oberoi Center.
Yes.
And the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development is one of the, I would say, the only best management training program in India. At least it was when I was graduating out of college. And I know that, and I can always share that, because you have 300,000 applicants or people who apply for that, or who are probably screened and re-screened.
Yes.
And only 15 get selected to do the course.
Wow.
So I was one of those lucky 15 to have gotten. So the day you get that appointment letter, I just felt that I have arrived in life. But that was one of the most proudest days, I think, in my student career that I got through.
Wow. That's encouraging so much. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently in your career?
Ouch, no. every career, every move just enriches you as a professional. Have I had ups and downs? Yes. Everyone goes through ups and downs. Everybody has that one experience which they say, you know what, that was tough. But that tough experience is tough only at that time. You know, after that, it's the best learning you can get. And so I call it tough love, because it's still an experience that that you know. At least now you know those are the things that you can avoid.
Wow, it's a learning of what to avoid.
True.
And what to leverage on. How do you spend your free time?
For me, free time is family time. In all fairness, with the amount of time that you give the hotel, your family really takes a lot of flack.
Okay.
And you know they don't see you very often. You're most of the time in the hotel, and then when you go back home, you're stressed. Your stress levels are very high, and your family copes up with all that. So for me, spending time with my family is most de-stressing element of my day.
Okay.
You know, go see my wife, play with the dog. It's reassuring, you know, that you have these people in your life who are waiting for you and who have nothing but well wishes for you.
Okay. What is one advice that you can give to young professionals in the industry?
As in myself as well,
Yes.
okay. But the one thing I'll actually tell anybody is that, you know, you've got to be true to whatever you do. And I give this example to everybody, even in my team.
Yes.
And I say, if you're not going to accept anything less than what was promised in terms of your wage, then you shouldn't deliver anything short of what you are capable of. You know, when you know that you have cut a corner just because it was easy, you might get away with it once, but you can't get away with it all the time. And when it becomes a habit, it'll be very difficult to get rid of.
Okay. Wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much for
was
the
a pleasure,
opportunity
Pauline.
you've given us, and quite some insights from what Sarova Group of Hotels is doing.
Thank
Really,
you.
thank you so much.
Pleasure indeed.
Okay.
It was lovely talking
Thank
to you.
you.